We welcome all of you to the SkillsFuture Month in collaboration with Smart Nation 2021, organized by SkillsFuture Singapore and Smart Nation Singapore. Our speaker, Jay, will be sharing the topic, Fun with Python. Throughout the session, please feel free to post your questions in the Q&A tab that you see on the right panel. Do take note, questions will be moderated. Jay, please go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Jay. Welcome everyone for the session. I'm here with Sherlyn from my team, and she will do the moderation. Please feel free to post your questions during the presentation, and at the during the Q&A session, we will address it. Give me a while, I will share my screen. Once again, I welcome all of you. So here we are going to have some fun with Python. This webinar is targeted for those who don't have any prior programming experience, to get the pinch of what is programming and how we can write a program using Python language. Myself, I'm Jay. Okay, I'm being in this IT industry for over 2 decades, and also I'm an educator and delivering programming courses, etc. Okay, what is the key takeaway of this session? We are going to understand the basics of programming using Python language, and also we are going to understand problem-solving techniques using one simple scenario, because this is for non-programmers. So we are going to consider one simple use case, and based on that use case, how we can address or write a program to solve the problem. That is what we are going to see. And for this, what are the things we are going to should know, right? There are a few things we need to know, like what is programming and how do I write a program? And in order to write a program, what are the components required for me? That is what we are going to see here. For that, we have planned some topics for you to have a feel of it. And then at the end of the session, you are able to write a simple programs, and also you can write some word games. You can play with the words and then cook up some random stories. That is what we are going to see today. So for that, the first thing, we should know what is programming, right? So here, in the programming, there are 2 parties involved. One is a computer, another one is a human being, us. So how are we going to talk to the computer? Does computer understand our language? Obviously no, right? So then how are we working and dealing with the computers? Here you go. We know English, we speak in English. And computer cannot understand English. And who is going to help us? Who is going to act as a translator in between the computer and us? That is what the programming language is. Okay, that is the play of compilers and interpreters. Okay, so for example, if you look at the scenario here, Okay, look at the scenario here. The computer, as a human being, we are going to say, hello world. Okay, this is a pretty much all the programmers we will do when we are learning any new programming. We are excited to tell the world, hey, I can run my program successfully or install something successfully. So we try to say hello world. So when we say hello world, what is going to happen? There is a compiler or interpreter. It's going to be sit inside our computer that is going to translate into zeros and ones, which the machine can understand. Why is it necessary? Because the machines can understand either zeros or ones. That is a binary language. We call that as a binary numbers. Computers are dumb. It can understand zeros and ones only. But it can work faster. But what work and how to perform that task? As a human being, we need to give instructions. How are we going to give instruction? That is where we are going to write a program in a high-level language similar to English, which we can understand. Programming is simple as that. We are going to tell computer to do something. How we are going to tell the computer? By giving some instructions. How we can give instructions? That is where we are learning programming languages. It is like if we want to communicate with Chinese, we should know some Chinese language. If we want to communicate with Europeans, we need to know German or French, right? So otherwise, what we are having, we are going to have some translator for us. Why? Both of us can understand the common language, English. So now, if you make an analogy with that scenario, whatever we experience in the real life, interpreters or compilers, these are the things going to behave as a translator to communicate with a machine, computer, which can understand only the binary language. So it is very simple as that. Okay, so how I'm going to give the instruction? What does it mean, the high-level languages? Okay, the instructions we are going to give in a sequence. Okay, what is step 1? What is step 2? What is step 3? Example, you can consider a cooking recipe, your favorite recipe you're going to cook. So what is the first thing you will do? You prepare all your ingredients and then you process it one by one, step by step, and then complete your recipe. Final product is your food, right? Your favorite dish. The same way here, we are going to have some building blocks like ingredients, and we are going to put all the ingredients together in a right mixture to solve any problem or to perform any specific task. That is called program. And how are we going to give instructions? Using high-level languages like C, C++, Java, Python, and other languages, PHP, etc. So if we want to write some programs, we need to know any one of these programming languages. If we know any one of these programming languages, coding is going to be fun. How it is going to be fun? Is it difficult for me to learn any programming language? Because I'm not a programmer, you don't need to worry. All the programming languages going to have same kind of logics, but it is going to be in a different format. It is like different languages what we are speaking. Example, Chinese are going to speak Chinese, Malays are going to speak Malay, Indians are going to speak Hindi or Tamil or whatever. They can speak their own language, but come to the meaning of it, there is only one thing, right? For example, if it is a book or hello, yeah, you take the word thank you, right? In English, we are going to say thank you. In Malay, we are going to say terima kasih. And then in Chinese, we are going to say "谢谢你," right? But everything refers to the same meaning. The same way, PHP is one programming language. Java is another programming language. Python is another programming language. All these languages are going to use to solve the problem in a different way. But all the things are conceptually going to be the same. Okay, so for that here, what I have done, few things, right? If I'm going to pick out a new programming language, how do I learn? I don't know single thing at all. Okay, that is where the tools like this is an online tool. Okay, before I proceed further to explain on this, I'm going to share few URLs with you. I'm going to use that in various part of our discussions here. I'm going to share those URLs in the chat window. Please take it from there and keep it for your reference. And also to try few things like here. Okay, for your reference, I have shared few URLs in the chat window. Please pick it up from there. One is Coding for Fun. This URL for us to learn the programming in a fun way. The second URL, why we are learning Python. What is the importance? Okay. Then third, if we decided to go on with Python, how we can learn from where we get started. And then I have some samples for you, which I'm going to use it during this course. If you want to try yourself to have a hands-on, you can visit this URL and you can download the files from there for your reference now or later also. So these are the few URLs you are going to see in my slides, and also I'm going to explain there. I posted in the chat window. I give you guys 1 minute. If you won't pick up the URLs from the chat window, please go and copy the URL. Keep it in your text editor or something. I give you guys 1 minute. So please check the chat window. Yes, it will be available after the webinar also. So please. Okay. Okay, please, if you cannot copy, take this URL and type it, please. Okay, later I will get the URL to be shared with you. Okay, so this one, what is it going to do? Example, I'm going there. No worries, if you guys don't know what is it, you try Blockly. Okay, go to your Google. Okay, type Blockly. Then the first one will appear. You can get it from there as well. Okay, so if you look at it here, what is going to happen? This is something similar to your Lego blocks. You're going to have some blocks here. You're going to organize them in a different way, whatever way you want it in this canvas area. On your right hand side, you are going to see the languages. Example, JavaScript, Python, PHP, Lua, and Dart. So the top three are predominantly we use to develop applications, commercial applications. And the left side, these are the concepts which we are going to use in any programming language. And the middle part is the canvas area where we are going to form some shapes, right? It is like a Lego blocks. You have blocks and you stack or unstack the blocks to come up with the different shapes. The same way, what we can do, we can take the blocks from left-hand side and assemble it in the middle canvas. Then right-hand side, you can see the code. Example here, there is a counter set here. This counter is going to be repeated for 3 times, and you're going to see the hello world for 3 times. Okay, so how I can write the code for this action in JavaScript, you can see here. Here you declare as a variable count, and then it is going to be start from 1, and the counter is going to be repeated, and you're going to see the code. Same thing, how I'm going to write it in Python. If you choose the different language, then you're going to see the equivalent Python code. So here itself, if you look at it, JavaScript and Python, isn't it simpler compared to JavaScript? That is the one of the reason Python is getting popular and used widely. So using this Blockly, we can learn a few things here. Okay, I don't want this one. So what I can do, I can right click and delete the blocks. And I can start from scratch. How I can do that? Okay, I want to say some text, right? So I go to the text and print something. What I'm going to print? Hi. And I'm going to say hello. I'm going to greet everyone. Good afternoon. So when we are including the blocks here, On your right hand side, you can see the equivalent code, how we can write it in Python. Even if we don't know the programming, we can play with this one and then we can see the code there. Okay. Oh, I'm not only going to play with the text. I want to play with numbers. How do I do that? Okay, then go for the numbers, choose, right? Okay, for example, I want to do print something, right? So I'm going to print something. One plus one is what? Okay, so see here, it's so simple as that. You drag this one, you can see the protrusion, right? So you can assemble it together here. So that is the way it is going to see. You are going to see the code print 1 plus 1. I don't want this number. I want to change it to something different. Okay, for example, I want to have 5 plus 3. So I can change the value here. So I can see the code on the right hand side, 5 plus 3. So what is the output of this program? So now I'm going to run this. Can you see the first line? It is displaying hand. The second line, it is displaying good afternoon. That is the output. And then the third one, it is going to show me some calculation result, 5 plus 3. Right? I don't want the 5 plus 3. I want to do something like 5 times 3. So we can change the operator from here. It is like our simple arithmetic operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. These are the things we can do it as a arithmetic operators. Okay, it is not only that. Okay, I'm not going to do always the number times something. Whenever I'm running my program, I want to do different set of calculations, right? Every time I want to change my values. Instead of giving 5 times 3, I want to give like one time, I want to say 2 plus 4, 2 times 4. Some other times I want to have a different value that is going to be 8 times 4. So the value, it is going to be changed every time when I'm performing the task. The change in value, that is going to be called as a variable in a programming language. Okay, so for that, why you have these variables here. So this section, we can create our own variable. Example, I'm going to create a variable. Immediately it will ask me, what is the name of your variable? Because you are going to change the value, and which value you are changing, I need to know. So you give me some identification, give me some name. Okay, so we are going to define the name for it. For example, I'm going to say number 1. I need 2 numbers, right? For addition or multiplication or division. So I'm going to create another variable called number 2. Okay, so here I have 2 variables, number 1 and number 2. How do I get the value for this number? Whoever using the computer, they need to give me input for these values, right? Okay, how to get that input? So if you go and look at the text, can you see prompt? You prompt for something, what you want. Okay, so here, if you look at it, can you see here? Prompt text, ABC. You prompt something. So here what we can say, we can tell the number. You prompt the number for ABC, right? So it is going to ask us what type of value we are going to give. It is some text messages or it is going to be some numbers. That is what we are doing it usually, right? When we do, for example, you take your mobile phone, your SMS or whatever. When you send a WhatsApp messages, you type a text message. When you're using your calculator apps, you're going to use the numbers. So based on your activity, you are changing your inputs, correct? The same way in computer programming, we can change the values and the type of input we are going to give. All those things you can try using these blocks available here. Okay. And then when you are going to compile it, this is the runs button. When you run this, it is going to convert your programming, whatever you have done here, into low-level language, zeros and one, which the machine can understand. Then finally, you are able to see the result. Okay, so this is like now you are prompting, it is asking for the value. So we can give the value for ABC, that is in the number. So we can give the value for it. If I want to get the value for number one, then what I need to do, take this number one block and replace it with this ABC. So then it is going to ask the value for number one. After that, what I can do, I can print what is number one to see whether it is accepted by number one or not. So I have to use print, right? After this print, what I'm going to do, I'm going to print the variable number one. So you take the variable one, can you see? It is going to print the value of number one. So I'm going to remove these prints. So you can delete this block if you don't want, or you can disable the block. Okay. So now I'm prompting for number one and I'm going to print what is number one. Right. So now I run this step only. Nothing happened. Why nothing happened? We didn't assign the value. How to assign that value? Go to the variable and set the value of that variable. Okay, so which value we are going to set? So now you look at it, see, you can connect these two blocks. Now if you run, you will see the value of your number one. Okay, the same way you can do for your number two, and you can find the sum. Okay, duplicate You no need to go every time. You can duplicate it from here also. You right click and duplicate. Okay, so you're going to get your number 2 here. Then you can do the calculation. Okay. So how you can do the calculation? You're going to have the addition of 2 numbers, right? Okay, here you can take it out. The same thing. Then you can use your number 1, replace 5 with number 1 and replace your 3 with number 2. Okay, now if you look at it, it is going to have addition of 2 numbers, 5, 3. The result is 5 times 3 is 15. So next time when I'm running 6, 7, then the result is 42. So every time the value of your variable number 1 and number 2 is changed. Likewise, we can give a different set of instructions to the computer to change the values or to perform any activity. So this will be helpful for the programmers, non-programmers, to learn the basics of programming language. Okay, so please come back. Then why we are learning Python? Because it's easy to learn. And if you look at that popularity index of the programming languages, if you visit this site, you are able to see Python is reaching up to the top. Last year, Python was in 3rd rank. Now it is in the 2nd place. Sooner or later, it may reach to the 1st place. If Python is able to handle the low-level controlling programs, then obviously it will be on top. Because of its versatility, reliability, efficiencies, and speed, it can reach any time soon on the top. Who has written Python? Hida von Rossum is the author of Python programming language. He started for fun, okay? It is like one Christmas, during the Christmas period, in his office, they had some challenges of using the existing file system. So they want to have a different file system which can be easy for them. Okay, the time he watched the BBC comedy series named Monty Python Flying Circus. So he was attracted with that series and he named Python. It was initiated in late 1989 and the first version was released to the public in 1994. Currently, we are using the version 3.9.6. In software industry, for IT programmers, it is important to know the version which we are using to develop the applications. As you guys know, every time we are receiving updates from Microsoft, we are receiving updates from iOS, etc. Why? They are fixing some bugs and upgrading or introducing a new features. The same way, when we are developing applications, release it to our clients, we might have modified certain things. So it is important for the programmers to know the version and maintaining the version of their program. That is the key for the software programmers. Then if you consider Python features, it is a platform independent, portable, secure, and scalable. What does it mean? That means if I'm writing a program using Windows computer, or if I'm going to write a program using Mac computer, that is going to behave in the same way. I write a program using Windows and I go and deploy the application, run the application in Mac. It will work the same way. And the browser, it doesn't matter. I can use any browser. Why we say that? If you look at your Microsoft Office, the look and feel in Windows is going to be different from Mac, right? And the features are also going to be a little bit different. Whereas if you're writing the application using Python, it is going to be consistent across all the platforms. And it is expressive. Just now we have seen, right, how expressive the language is. Whatever we think, what we want to do, the same way we can write the code there. Then the compiler will be interpret the things and then execute for us. It is robust and it handles the memory well, and it has wide range of libraries. If I want to use for web application, yes, there is a framework available for me like Flask or Django, etc. If I'm going to use it for data science, then I have a frameworks, packages like NumPy, Pandas, etc. On top of everything, it is open source, free, and it can be embedded with any other applications what we want. Okay, so just now we have seen how we can learn coding in a fun way using Blockly. And we have seen why Python. Okay, now we come to the stage. How do we get started with Python? There are two ways you can do it. One is like you download the software and install in your computer. And there are IDEs. IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. IDEs are available for us to write the codes. And then we execute the code the same way what I have shown you using Blockly. Okay, now for the session, we don't have a time to do all these things. So what we can do? We can go and use the Replit. This is another IDE. It is a browser-based IDE. You no need to install anything. As long as you have an internet and you have your browser, we can use it. Okay, so if you are going to visit this site, okay, just go to your Google and type Replit. You are able to see the collaborative browser-based IDE. So if you click on here, then you will see some interface. Initial stage, you will see the start coding and then the languages which you can choose. So here, if you go and look at it, see all languages, you can go and select the language which you want to learn. It's not only for Python. If you want to learn other languages also, you can click there. So example, I'm going to choose Python now. Okay, this screen will appear. If you want to change the name, you can change it here and then click Create Ripple. So it will create your own area for you. So can you see here, once I launch it, if you look at it, here it is showing me the version. This IDE is using the Python version 3.8.2. If you look at any software application, you are going to see this one. Okay, so here I want to write a code. Just now I have shown you Blockly. You no need to manually type your code. You can use the blocks to assemble to create the code. Whereas Replit, you need to type the code. Example here, I'm going to type print hello world. If I make a mistake, right, it is going to complain. Hey, this line, you have a mistake, and this is your print syntax. So as a beginner, if we don't know anything, we go and try using the Blockly. After we learn something, the basic syntax and everything, what we can do, we can try with this kind of IDEs. Here also, you are going to get the help. Like, for example, I'm going to write the print command and what is the syntax for it and how is it going to work. And if I make a mistake, the code intelligence, it is going to highlight where I make a mistake. If you compare this syntax below and what you have written, we can easily figure it out something went wrong here. And then we can correct our mistake. This is called debugging the programs. If there is any error in the program, we call it as a bug. And the way how we are fixing it, we call that as debugging. So this is the coding area. And here I can see the output. We call that as a console. Console means it is a standard output. And here there is a run option. This is the one going to compile the program and then show the result here. So the Python interpreter, it is taking the responsibility to convert your high-level English code to low-level machine understandable format. Okay, so this is what I have done just now. Written the code, that is my first step. And then second step, I have run the code. And the third, I have seen the result. What is happening internally? Code is a Python program. The Python interpreter available in the browser, it is converting the code into machine readable form and the output of the program shown in the screen. Okay, so here, the next step, like what I have mentioned during the Blockly segment, there are some variables, some values, all those things, right? What is the name for that? The variable, there are different types of variable that is called data type. If the number without any decimal place, then it is going to be called as integer. If the number with a decimal place, it is going to be called as float. And the number, the variable with some values, some text, then that is known as string. In any programming language, we need to follow certain syntax, right? That is called the data types naming conventions. Okay, for that naming convention, example just now when I'm defining the variable num1, I start with n and I also use the characters and digit. That is the way we define the identifiers, name of the variables. And it cannot start with a digit. Num1 is valid, whereas I cannot say one num. That means the compiler won't accept it. These are the some rules to define the variable. We cannot use any special characters. We cannot use any null values or keywords. Then the operators. In order to manipulate your numbers, we need to apply some operators. That is called arithmetic operators, relational operators, assignment operators, and logical operators. So you guys know arithmetic operators is plus, minus, multiplication, divisions. Relational operators is less than or greater than, less than or equal to. Assignment operators is going to be your plus, or minus, post increment, that kind of thing. Logical operators, when you are checking for the conditions, okay, if A is greater than B and B is greater than C, then A is the biggest number. So if you're going to write any logic, compare more than one conditions, then we go for logical operators. Okay, next step is a problem solving. How we can solve the problem? Any problem statement, you identify what is the problem. For example, here, we are going to consider one simple logic, addition of two numbers. What is the problem here? We need to sum up two numbers. How do we calculate the sum? For that, we need to get the input from the user and we need to calculate the sum. That is the ideation we are having. Okay, so you identify the problem and come up with the idea, come up with options, then choose the one and derive the solution. Okay, once we have done that, we identified we need to get the input and calculate the sum. These are the two steps we need to do. So next step, how do we get the input? That is where we are going to write a sequence of steps in a simple English. That is called algorithm. If we are going to represent the same steps in a pictorial representation, that is going to be called as a flowchart. There are certain rules for it, which we are not going to focus here, but we are going to get an idea of how to solve the problem. So we are getting the input for number one, we are getting the input for number two, and calculate the sum, and finally we print the sum. If it is a complex problem, then what we need to do? We need to go and revise these steps. Is it correct? Is there any other options? Then we figure it out and we revise it. Finally, we write a program for that, write a coding for that. Input num1. What we do? Number one, I'm going to get the input from the computer, and this should be a number. It should not be characters. It should not be a string, right? Same way, number two, then translate the steps to sum equal number one plus number two. Finally, print the sum. So the same code, what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you guys in the IDE. Okay, so here if you look at it, this is what we have seen as an algorithm. Start, input number one, number two, calculate, and print. Okay, so when you all want to write any comments, some notes inside your program, then we call that as a comments. That is not going to be executed in your program. That is why it is grayed out. How do we make the line as comment? Using hash symbol in front. This syntax is going to be different for different programming languages, but for Python, we are going to use the hashtag, right? The input number 1, I'm going to get input, second number, then calculate the sum. Now I'm going to execute this code to see the result. Can you see here? It is asking for number 1. The cursor is waiting there. So I'm going to enter 5. Once I enter, it is going to ask for the second number. So I enter 3. Then press enter. Can you see here? I can see the output. Sum equal 5 plus 3, and it is computed and it gets printed. Okay, so this example also available in the GitHub repository. You can check it later. I will share the URL again. Okay, next, what are we going to see? Yes, we have seen simple problem solving. Is it that much only? No, there are a few other things we can do. The another thing is called arrays. Okay, for example, in a class, you have a student. You want to have the information of all the students. So you are going to collect those informations. The same way, in programs, we can do that collection is known as arrays. It is going to have group of data, collection of data. Okay, example here, if you consider the fruits. Fruits is an array. It is going to have different items like apple, orange, banana. So how do I access them? For that, we call that as an index to identify each and every element there. So it is going to be 0, 1, and 2. So the index always begin with 0. And when you are going to say fruits of 1, it is going to return 1. If you're going to say, like, what is the length? How many elements are there? Then the length function, it is going to help us. These are the function define. Okay, I don't want them in a sequence. I want to pick something randomly. So how do we do that? For that, there are modules available in Python. These modules are collection of pre-built Python routines which developed by the program owners, the Python community. So what we can do, we can take those modules and include it in our program. There are so many things are available. The details you can see under Python documentations. So here, what I have done, I have picked up only one item, okay? Because that is what I need to create my random story, okay? Every time I want to see different set of stories, right? So I want to have some random thing. So here, I'm going to use the random. So what this module is going to help me, it is going to give me some numbers randomly. I can pick up my choice randomly, and I can take some sample from there. And if I want, I can shuffle them. I can change the orders. These are the few functionalities available. I can use it for my storytelling. So here you go. Let us see how it is work. Okay, the same program, I'm going to replace it. So here, if you look at it, I have some fruits array. I have different 5 fruits, correct? And I'm using my module, that is a random module. If I want to use it, I can use it exactly the same thing. Okay, sometimes the module names are going to be too long. I want to have some nickname. That one we used to do, right, in the real life. The person name is long, then we are going to have some nicknames. The same way we can do it in the programming, that is called alias. So random is my module name. I want to shorten that name, then what I can do it, I can use alias name and then alias random. Okay, so if I'm going to give this random number, it is going to give me some random values 1 and 2. If I want to make a choice from anything, then it is going to give me a different results, the choice of fruits. And if I want to sample only 2 items, then I can use the sample method. And if I want to shuffle the sequence, then I can use the shuffle. So I no need to write any complicated logic to implement this. All these things are pre-built and available for me. I just make use of it. So I'm going to run this one. Can you see here? First time I'm running, my random numbers are 6, 5, and 0, 6, 1. And my choice is banana. And my sample comes with orange and pear. And then if you look at it, my original sequence is apple, orange, banana, grapes, and pear. Here it's changed the sequence, it's shuffled. Okay. If I run the same program, I'm not changing anything here. I run the same program. Can you see now my choice getting changed, become orange, my shuffling changed into different sequence, my sampling also changed, my random numbers generated like 0.96 or 0.15. So I'm going to use this array and I'm going to use this random to build my story. How I'm going to build that story? Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to have some starting sentences. I'm going to have some characters going to be involved in that story and the time. And what is the storyline for that story plot? And where is it happening some places? And is there any supporting characters? And what is their age and what work they are doing? I'm going to come up with something. And from that, use the random clause to tell the story. So how I'm going to do that? Okay, so if you look at it here, I have a sentence starter. About 100 years ago in 20 BC, once upon a time, and the characters, there lived a king or Jack or a farmer, and the time one day, full moon night or Sunday, story plot, he was passing by or going for a picnic, something. And where is it? In the garden or mountain. And then what is the second character? It's a man or young lady, and what age group they are in and what they are doing. Okay, these are the arrays I have. And how I'm going to cook up the story? Using the choice, different options from random. So random choice of my starting sentence, random choice of my character, random choice of time, and then I'm going to run. I put everything together and I'm going to run this program. So can you see the story here? Once upon a time, there lived a king. One day he was passing by the mountain and he seems to be in late 20s, digging a well on roadside. Second time, I'm going to run this. Once upon a time, there lived a farmer one full moon night. He was passing by the mountains. He saw a young lady who seemed very old and feeble, searching something. So every time when I'm going to run, I'm going to get a different story. All right, isn't that fun? Using these simple comments, we can have different type of programs for different needs. With that, I come to the end of my presentation. And if you want to learn further regarding Python, you can visit this Python website to start with. And if you want the source code, whatever I have discussed with you just now, it is available in my GitHub page. It will be available forever. So if you want, you can pick it up from there, if you want to try on yourself. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Okay, here there is one question I can see. Can we use W3 schools to learn Python? Yes, you can, of course. How do you point the array to an Excel column? Array is not an Excel column. It is going to be in the computer memory. Okay, that I give the representation here in form of Excel columns, that's all, for easy understanding. Any other questions from anyone? Python can be written to learn. How to write it to learn? How to write it to learn? Yes, you can. That is what I to show you, right? The Blockly. Whatever the ideas you have, you can use the blocks to learn it. If we have long list of strings, how to add to the array? Okay, there are other array methods are available. There are push, pop, and remove, add, delete. It's not only arrays, there are lists, dictionaries, sets are available. Depends on our purpose, we can use different data types. Here, due to time constraint, we consider only array. And that is the basic for all other complex collections. Can we share recording? That one you have to check with the organizers. Any other questions from anyone? Why is the first coding always hello world? Because we are happy, excited, right? We want to say, hey, hello world. That is what we begin with, right? Our conversation, hi, the same way. It's a happy note. How to put in PC to run a script? Okay, that one, the idea is in all the IDs which we are going to use it, you will see one run option. Like just now, if you look at it, the Blockly, you have seen the triangle, right? And also if you look at Replit, you have seen the triangle. The triangle, it is for the execution. So in any IDE, if you're going to use, you will see two options without fail. One is to run, another one is to debug.
Hi, Jay, Sebastian here.
Yeah.
We're kind of overrunning a little bit. It would be
Can.
great if we could take on one last question and we could wrap up the session.
Sure.
If you would like, you could leave your email address so that the webinar attendees can contact you if they have further Q&A.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so understand there is no operator precedence. No, all the programming languages follows the operator precedence. It is difficult using Python to create running a bot. Not really. If you know the basic programming, you can. Which one is better, R or Python? It is depends on your situation. Replit is the recommended IDE in terms of, no, that is for the beginners to learn. Okay, guys, I think that's all I have done with it. I answer all the questions.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, before the session ends, please scan the QR code and provide your feedback or comments on the webinar. And lastly, I'd like to share with you about our skills and training advisory service. If you're not sure how to get started on your upskilling journey, you can sign up for a free one-to-one skills and training advisory session where a skills ambassador will guide you in understanding your career goals and provide suitable course recommendations. Simply scan on the QR code and indicate SFMX Smart Nation in the mandatory field, how do you hear about us, at the bottom of the registration form. Our skills ambassadors will contact you within 2 to 3 working days. We have come to the end of the webinar and we thank you for joining us. Hope you have gained important insights from our speaker. Thank you and hope to see you in the other sessions.